The term aesthetics is related to the appreciation of beauty and what we as individuals find beautiful. It is a topic in philosophy that discusses the beauty in objects, both man made and natural, and aesthetic experiences. It questions what counts as art, what are the purposes of art, and what makes art beautiful. This is a complicated topic as what one person finds beautiful, another may not. Music is a form of art, though it may not be physical, it is an aesthetic experience people value. In this dialectal inquiry, I will be talking about the aesthetics of music and share my ideas on what makes music aesthetically pleasing to listen to. I will be discussing what we have decided as a society can be classed as good music, the science behind music, and the emotional response we have from certain music, and how our culture and upbringing play a role in the kind of music we listen to and admire. What is music? The literal definition for music is vocal or instrumental sounds, or both, combined in such a way as to produce beauty of form, harmony, and expression of emotion. So music is sound, but when does sound become music? The simplest answer is music is organized sound. Many factors such as pitch, rhythm, tone, and melody play a role in making music aesthetically pleasing to hear. Before discussing why we like the music we do, let's dive a little into the physics of music. Sound is a wave created by vibrating objects that travel through a medium, usually air, and is picked up by the receiver, our ears in most cases. Our ears pick up sound waves in the 20 Hz to 20 kHz frequency range. The wave causes our eardrums to vibrate and transfers the vibrations through our middle ear into our inner ear. Our inner ears are pretty complex and sensitive, and the part of our ears that turn the vibrating signal into an electrical impulse that gets transmitted into our brain. And it is our inner ear that recognizes different frequencies and pitches. We are able to hear different instruments even if they are playing the same note. Every instrument has a different tone, so they are all playing the same note and the same fundamental frequency. They each all have their own harmonic frequencies, resulting in the different tones. Let's move on to the making of a song. Scales are the key to creating music. Scales are multiple notes of particular frequencies that are pleasing to hear. Scales are based off of consonants. Consonant tones, for example, are two tones that can be played together and sound harmonious to the ear. In a perfect world, consonant tones are pleasing to hear and dissonant sounds are not, but dissonant sounds are a big part of music as well. It was once believed that the reason dissonant chords are unappealing is due to beating, which occurs when two notes that are close together in frequency clash and our brains cannot distinguish one note from the other, resulting in us hearing the same note getting louder and quieter. This is true to some extent, but in a study by Josh McDermott, he played harmonic and inharmonic sounds and sounds with and without beating to a group of people with amusia, which are people who can't determine pitch, melody, and sing in tune, as well as a group of people without this musical disorder. He found that the amusics could not tell the difference between consonant and dissonant sounds, but they still showed a dislike to the sounds with beating in them. Another study McDermott was involved in was in differences in dissonance in native Amazonians, which proves that consonance is a creation of Western music culture and that the music we find aesthetically pleasing isn't just scientific and applicable to everyone in the universe. In this study, McDermott and Godoy played chords to 5 different groups of people, including American musicians, regular Americans, citizens in Bolivia, and the Chimani tribe. Every group showed a preference for consonant chords except for the Chimani people, who were the only group that had never been exposed to Western music or culture. They knew they weren't dealing with a bunch of amusics, as they responded to rapidly modulating unpleasant tones. So what does this mean? Our culture is the reason we like the music we do? Let's dive into this a little bit more. We begin to learn about music before we are even born. In the womb, we learn intonational patterns of sound and the frequencies of a language in our culture from our parents singing and playing music to us. A lot of our language development as children is through songs and music. Take the alphabet, for example. It's pretty clear music is a major part of Western culture. Why though? Probably the emotional response we receive from music. In 2001, neuroscientists Anne Blood and Robert Zatour used magnetic resonance imaging to prove music-activated areas of our brain responsible for a release of dopamine, the neurotransmitter connected to euphoric reward responses. We understand the emotional response we receive from the music of our liking, but it's still debated why. One theory by the philosopher and composer Leonard Meyer suggests that the reason we get an emotional response from certain music is determined by whether or not the song goes where we expect it to, and when it does, our brain rewards us. Humans are creatures of habits and forming patterns, and that shows in music that with its repeated rhythms, lyrics, and so forth. But how does our brains learn what to expect? A lot of theories point to different cultures' use of different scales, tones, and instruments that we have been brought up around and determine what we expect from music. We still don't quite understand why we find lower pitch, slower tempo, minor scales, and dark timbres to be associated with sad emotions. Though we do know while sadness is a negative emotion, we enjoy sad music when we're sad as we feel connected and understood by the music we're listening to, therefore finding it pleasurable. And then there's a question of why we all have different tastes in music despite being brought up in the same culture as others. We develop our own preferences in music genres. Well, psychology research has shown that there's a link between general personality types and genre preferences. For example, those who show curiosity in their personality type tend to enjoy classical music, blues, jazz, and folk music. In saying that, though, music that was popular or we associate with a certain period of time in our lives can bring back memories and feelings from the time we associate the song from, no matter the genre. I know for a fact a lot of the 2000s hits I listened to as a preteen excite me still, though my genre of preference is classic and blues rock. There's a lot of science behind sound and music, and the emotional response we receive that answers the questions of why we like the music we do. But for our brains to find certain types of music aesthetically pleasing, we must be exposed to it some way or another through our culture. That is not just responsible for the sounds of music we are accustomed to, but many other factors of our lives. Whether or not you like rock, jazz, blues, hip hop, or pop, the sounds in the music we find harmonious and aesthetically pleasing have been imprinted in our brains from an early age. Our personality types may play a role in the genre of music we prefer, but Western culture plays a role in how we decide what sounds good and what sounds bad.